So you're thinking about vlogging, huh? Ready to share your passions with the world.
It's an exciting world out there.
It is. But before you hit that record button, we need to make sure you can land that dream vlogging gig.
Absolutely.
And that's what today's deep dive is all about.
All right.
We're diving deep into RoleCatcher's Vlogger Interview Guide and their Career Guide. Going to give you all the tips and tricks you need to totally nail those interview questions.
Sounds good to me.
Perfect. So first up, what does a vlogger even do? I mean, we kind of know, right? They make videos.
Right, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher actually has a really interesting definition. They talk about how it's this blend of like objective reporting, but with your own personal perspective woven in.
And you've got to know how to keep that audience engaged.
Oh, for sure. Audience interaction is everything.
Totally. And don't forget about the written content, too. It's not just about the videos.
Nope, you got to be a well-rounded content creator these days.
Absolutely. So let's jump into some of the questions that RoleCatcher thinks you might get in an interview. They give a lot of great examples, and I think it'll be helpful to walk through a few, maybe brainstorm some answers together. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. All right, so question number one, and this one always comes up. What inspired you to become a vlogger? Seems easy enough, right?
Yeah, you'd think so, but you'd be surprised how many people stumble on this one.
Right.
This is your chance to really let your passion shine through.
Yeah.
Interviewers, they want to hear what makes you tick, what drives you to share your story with the world, you know?
It's like that saying, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Exactly. And speaking of why, this is where RoleCatcher's AI tools come in super handy.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more.
So they have this AI that analyzes job descriptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it helps you tailor your answers to hit those key points. Like, let's say you're applying for a travel vlogging gig. The AI might suggest you focus on your love of exploring new cultures, or maybe how you're really good at getting those amazing travel shots.
Wow. So it's like having a personalized coach almost prepping you for that specific role.
Exactly. It's pretty cool.
That's amazing. Okay, so back to the question. RoleCatcher, they give a sample answer in their guide. You know, something about someone who's always loved film and now wants to use that to inspire others.
Right. A pretty standard answer.
Yeah, but they make a good point. It has to be personal. Like, what would your answer be?
Good question. Well, I've always loved to cook, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I talk about how much I love sharing that passion for food and how creating recipe videos lets me connect with a whole community of people who love food just as much as I do.
I love it. It's authentic. It's you. And that's what makes a good vlogger, right? Someone who's genuine and passionate about what they're sharing.
Totally. You got to love what you do.
Okay, so let's say you're killing it in the interview, you're feeling good, and then they hit you with this. How do you handle negative comments?
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one.
It's the reality of putting yourself out there, right?
It comes with the territory, unfortunately.
Sadly, yeah. So how do you answer that in a way that shows you can handle it?
Well, RoleCatcher's guide really emphasizes grace under pressure. It's not about getting defensive or anything.
Right.
It's about showing them that you can take criticism constructively.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what, like acknowledging valid criticism?
Yeah.
Maybe even explaining how you'd use it to improve your content in the future.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, you want to get better.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the best response is no response at all.
True.
Especially with trolls. You don't owe anyone your time or energy, especially if they're just trying to be negative.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
And it shows a lot of maturity, you know, to
Yeah.
be able to step back from that and not let it get to you.
Definitely.
Okay, next question. And this one's a big one. How do you plan to grow your audience? That's the million-dollar question for any aspiring vlogger, right?
Yeah, it's not enough to just make great content these days.
Nope. Got to get those views.
You got to know how to get it out there, make sure people actually see it. And that's where things get a little tricky.
For sure. So what are some of the things that RoleCatcher recommends focusing on?
So they really emphasize understanding the business side of things. Like, are you using social media effectively? Do you actually understand how algorithms work? Those kinds of things.
It's like you wouldn't promote a gaming channel the same way on LinkedIn as you would on Twitch, right?
Exactly. It's about understanding the nuances of each platform. And that's another area where RoleCatcher's AI can really come in handy.
Oh, how so?
It can actually provide feedback on your answers, like suggest ways to really highlight your knowledge of each platform. So if you're applying to be a tech vlogger, for example,
Yeah.
it might suggest you mention your experience with YouTube SEO or your success running Twitter chats. Stuff like that.
That's incredible.
It's wild, right?
It's like having a digital marketing guru right there in your back pocket. Okay, let's talk about the business side of vlogging a little more. One question that RoleCatcher highlights is, how do you envision monetizing your content?
Ah, the monetization question. Everyone's thinking about it.
Right. Got to make a living. But seriously,
Hmm.
it's not taboo to talk about the business side of vlogging. In fact, I think it shows interviewers you're serious.
Yeah.
You're thinking long term.
Absolutely. And RoleCatcher seems to agree. They actually have a whole section in their career guide dedicated to, well, the career stuff, like actually making money from this.
For real. What kind of things do they talk about?
Let me see. Okay, so they break down a lot of the common ways vloggers make money. Sponsorships, affiliate marketing, even selling merchandise.
Okay, yeah, those are all pretty standard. Anything surprising?
I think what's interesting is their emphasis on having multiple streams of income. Not putting all your eggs in one basket.
That's smart. Diversify, diversify.
Exactly.
And you know what's cool? RoleCatcher's AI, it can actually suggest monetization strategies that make sense for your niche.
Wait, really?
Yeah, like if you're applying to be a beauty vlogger, it might suggest you highlight your experience with, say, affiliate links for makeup products, that kind of thing.
That's seriously impressive. That's like having a personalized business plan right there at your fingertips.
Totally. Okay, ready for another question?
Hit me.
All right, this one's a bit more about like your experience as a creator.
Yeah.
Tell me about a time you overcame a creative challenge while filming.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I know, right? Because it's going to happen.
It happens to everyone.
Totally. Your equipment's going to fail or you're going to hit a wall creatively. They want to see how you handle those curveballs.
Makes sense.
RoleCatcher, they recommend using the STAR method.
Star.
Yeah, it stands for situation, task, action, result. It's just a way to structure your answer so it's clear and concise, and it really highlights how you were able to problem solve.
Got it. So it's all about telling a good story, basically.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get specific. Like, did you have to improvise a whole shot because you forgot a piece of equipment? Or maybe you had to rethink your whole editing style because the footage wasn't working the way you thought it would.
I've been there.
Right. We've all been there. And those are the stories that interviewers want to hear. Okay, ready for a fun one?
Yeah, bring it on.
All right, so this one's a bit more hypothetical. If you could collaborate with any vlogger, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's fun.
Right, it's like a dream collab brainstorm. And it tells you a lot about their inspirations. Like, who do they look up to? Whose work do they admire?
Right. It gives you a peek into their creative process.
Totally. And RoleCatcher suggests even thinking about what kind of content you would create together.
Ooh, I like that.
Like, imagine a cooking channel teaming up with a travel vlogger.
Now, that's a recipe for success.
Right. The possibilities are endless. Okay, back to reality for a sec. Another question RoleCatcher highlights. How do you stay current with the latest trends in vlogging?
Good question. Things move so fast these days.
I know. So it's important to show them that you're, on top of it, that you're actively seeking out new information and trends.
So what are you reading all the latest industry blogs?
Exactly. Are you following other creators who are killing it? Are you subscribed to those industry newsletters? Those are all good things to mention.
What about trying out new tech? Is that important?
That's actually something RoleCatcher specifically mentions in their career guide. They talk about the importance of being willing to experiment.
Oh, interesting.
Like, are you trying out new editing software, playing around with VR or AR? Those are the kinds of things that show you're thinking ahead of the curve.
It shows you're adaptable.
Exactly. Okay, last question before we wrap things up. How do you define success as a vlogger?
Good question.
It's easy to get caught up in the numbers, right? Subscribers, views, all of that. But it's really about more than that.
It's about the impact you're making, right?
Exactly. And that's what RoleCatcher emphasizes, setting realistic and attainable goals.
So what, like building a strong community?
Exactly. Or maybe it's landing your dream brand deal. Or even just, creating content that you're really proud of. It's about defining success on your own terms.
I love that. So it's not all about the money.
It's about finding fulfillment in what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Although, speaking of money,
Yeah.
it's also about getting paid. Because, let's be real, vlogging is a job.
Right. You got to pay those bills.
Exactly. So how do you handle that dreaded salary question? When they ask what you're expecting to make.
Yeah. That can be a tough one to navigate.
It is. Luckily, RoleCatcher has our backs. They have a whole section in their career guide about this.
Oh, really? What kind of things did they suggest?
So first and foremost, do your research.
Makes sense.
Like, what are other vloggers in your niche earning? What's the average salary for someone with your level of experience?
And I'm guessing location matters too, right?
Huge factor. Vlogging from New York City is going to come with a different price tag than, say, vlogging from a small town.
For sure. So how do you figure all of that out?
Well, RoleCatcher mentions these online salary calculators.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
They can be really helpful for getting a ballpark figure. And they also say it's good to have a salary range in mind rather than a fixed number.
Right, that makes sense. Gives you a little wiggle room to negotiate.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Don't undervalue yourself. You're putting in the time, the creativity, the effort. Make sure you're getting compensated fairly.
Totally. It's more than just hitting record on a camera.
Right. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes. Planning, editing, promoting on social media. It's a whole thing.
It's a full-time job, for sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, RoleCatcher makes a good point about remembering that salary isn't everything.
Oh, right. Like benefits and stuff.
Exactly. Paid vacation time, health insurance, even opportunities for professional development like conferences and workshops.
Those are all super important.
They are, and those are things you can negotiate too. Maybe you're willing to take a slightly lower salary in exchange for more vacation days or a flexible work schedule.
It's all about finding that work-life balance, am I right?
You got it. But you want to know something really cool?
Always.
RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you figure out a salary range too.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah, you input your skills, your experience, all of that, and then it compares it to industry data and suggests a salary range that's personalized to you.
That's amazing. It's like having a personal agent in your pocket.
Right. Talk about working smarter, not harder.
Totally. So, any final words of wisdom for aspiring vloggers as they head into that interview?
Just be confident, be prepared, and most importantly, be yourself.
I love that. Let that personality shine through. Well, folks, there you have it. Our deep dive into the world of vlogging interviews is officially complete.
And hopefully our listeners feel a lot more prepared to go out and land their dream vlogging gigs.
I think so too. We covered a lot of ground today. From nailing those tricky interview questions to understanding the business side of things to even negotiating that dream salary. And remember, RoleCatcher's interview guide and career guide are incredible resources.
Seriously, they have so many great tips and insights. Definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely. But most importantly, remember to have fun. Vlogging is all about sharing your passions with the world.
So go out there, be creative, and make something amazing.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Hey.
That's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive.